Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're taking a look at an extremely fun Pokemon in the Open Grade League with a move that honestly I had no idea that it even learned. These battles are submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Dr. Stalemate, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now the Pokemon we're taking a look at today is Shadow Mismagius, and the move is Psywave. Psywave is a move learned by Pokemon like Malamar and Starmie. I had no idea at some point they gave it to Mismagius. Now it goes without saying, Mismagius is not a Pokemon that's recommended for climbing. This is mainly just Dr. Stalemate looking to have some fun. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and pick it up. A slightly negative lead, Azumarill into Clodsire. We're going to see a safe switch into Annihilape. Annihilape is going to be answered with Primeape. Primeape, of course, has a massive pacing advantage in this matchup, so it's going to be able to reach these Rage Fists a lot faster than Annihilape. But the issue that Primeape is going to have is Primeape can never Karate Chop down due to the fact that it is going to be double resisted. I believe Annihilape may be able to shield once and just counter all the way down here, and it looks like it can. So Annihilape exits boosted, in comes Clodsire, and now it's going to have to deal with a +1 Ice Punch. Ice Punch is going to connect, massive damage, opponent unable to get a farm down. We're going to see the Ice Punch reached, opponent is forced to switch out and make a catch onto Feraligatr. And now that switch advantage has been won, the Azumarill on the Feraligatr, and Shadow Mismagius would definitely love to hit that Clodsire with a ton of Psywaves. Hydro Cannon not going to be an issue for the Azumarill. Azumarill goes for the play rough, opponent gives up the final shield, and I'm pretty confident we're going to see the final shield for Stalemate saved for Shadow Mismagius. Hydro Cannon is going to connect. He's just going to under-tap the play rough, but the switch timer's up. Nice catch by the opponent as they were able to preserve that Feraligatr. But now in comes Shadow Mismagius. Mismagius is going to shield as Clodsire goes for the Earthquake. Mismagius going for the Psywave down and gets it. In comes Feraligatr, but it just does not have the energy needed. Shadow Mismagius makes the Dark Pulse, knocking out Feraligatr, and that's a good game. Picking up a very neutral lead in the next match, Azumarill versus Wigglytuff. Anytime you see Wigglytuff on the lead, it's a very safe bet that the backline is going to include at least one Mud Slapper. For the third Pokemon, sometimes it's Drifblim, sometimes Diggersby, sometimes it's a second Mud Slapper. So you really have to hope that it's not going to be Drifblim, as Drifblim would be a huge issue for these back Pokemon. Azumarill is going to make it to the Ice Beam. Now the opponent has a choice to make. Are they going to commit a shield? Yes, they are. We see a switch to Shadow Mismagius. Shadow Mismagius looking for the farm down. Opponent is able to make it to a last second Icy Wind. So Mismagius now going to be debuffed. In comes a Dugong. Dugong now going to be met with a Shadow Ball, but again, the Shadow Ball has been debuffed. Shadow Ball is still going to do massive damage, so Shadow Mismagius has an absolutely absurd damage output, as that Shadow Ball at -1 still did a ton of damage. And now it's time for Annihilape to sweep this endgame. Annihilape looking for the farm down, realizes he can't get it, so the perfectly timed switch out to absorb this damage onto Azumarill. Opponent goes for an undercharge. They're going to let their Dugong get as low as possible. Annihilape will get a 1 counter head start. In the back, there's the Mud Slapper that we expected when we saw the Wigglytuff lead, as Gastrodon hits the field of play. Gastrodon farming up, taking a lot of damage. They try for a catch, but they misremembered the amount of residual energy on the Annihilape. They switched too early. Wigglytuff gets countered down, and the opponent can't even successfully bait and make it to the nuke move. So this is a very safe shield for Dr. Stalemate, because even if they body slam bait, this is only enough for a body slam. That's double resisted. The Annihilape's low. It's not low enough for a double resisted body slam to KO. So Annihilape gets the counter down and takes the win. Great lead in the next match, Azumarill versus Diggersby. This team ABA strong into the Diggersby, so seeing it anywhere should put him in a pretty good position for success. Azumarill more than happy to absorb a Scorching Sands and then can look to return fire with an Ice Beam, but no, we actually see a safe switch into the Annihilape. This is an interesting play. The opponent, odds are they're probably going to have a very good check to the Annihilape, so he is going to no-shield the Scorching Sands, and there it is right on cue as Azumarill hits the field of play. Azumarill is now going to immediately be hit with a Rage Fist. Rage Fist, of course, with the guaranteed attack boost, immediately followed by Rage Fist number 2. But for Azumarill, this is very okay. You can continue to absorb these hits. Azumarill not going to risk a potential farm down leading to a third Rage Fist being reached, so instead, they are just going to fire off an Ice Beam. Now we have Azumarill versus Azumarill, but the opponent is outside of Play Rough range. Play Rough will not be enough to knock out here. Opponent is able to hang on. This is going to set up a very nice farm down opportunity for Dr. Stalemate. He's going to take the farm on Shadow Mismagius. Mismagius now with a much needed energy head start. And what's the opponent going to bring in here? They're going to bring in their final Pokemon, which is revealed to be Superior. Superior going to have to respect this Shadow Ball, or it's going to inflict massive damage, and they do just that. Shadow Mismagius more than happy to match shields, but pacing is not its friend in this matchup as Superior goes for the Aerial Ace. They make it to another Aerial Ace, and that is going to force Dr. Stalemate to commit the final shield. Stalemate farming up, opponent tries for a Shadow Ball catch onto the Diggersby, but they are unsuccessful. Diggersby going to be hit with the Dark Pulse. That's going to get them low, and we see a switch and a catch as the opponent gets to the Fire Punch, catching onto the Azumarill. Azumarill does get that farm down. Opponent going to bring back in Superior, and Superior will immediately be met with the Ice Beam. Ice Beam is going to be shielded. Opponent needs a farm down here. Can they get it? No, they cannot. Azumarill on 1 HP, able to hang on, knock out Superior, and still secure the win. Picking up a pretty bad lead in the next match. My goodness, Morpeko is a problem for this Azumarill plus Shadow Mismagius core. The safe switch into Annihilate. Opponent is going to stay in to go for a Psychic Fangs before looking to switch out into Goodra. Goodra is really not going to appreciate Nice Punch. It is survivable for the opponent, but it's going to leave a serious mark as Goodra will get the farm down, but they exit in very low red health. This is an opportunity for Azumarill to get a pretty massive energy head start, as it's going to be tough, but you could attempt to go for a very aggressive bubble farm down, as 2 Thunder Punches from the Goodra will not be enough to knock out the Azumarill, and that's exactly what Azumarill is going to do. Azumarill is going to go for the big farm down, trusting in the fact that this energy will be valuable. In comes Morpeko, opponent not going to concede the full farm down. Morpeko immediately met with a Play Rough. In comes Shadow Mismagius, but these Psywaves are so heavily resisted. The good news, however, is Morpeko is very frail. Morpeko full sends the Aura Wheel. The Psywaves do actually add up over time. Mismagius, now with a call to make, commits the shield. It's going to be the Psychic Fangs, and it will be a CMP tie. This Dark Pulse is unfortunately still going to be fired due to the fact that it was a CMP tie. In the back is Talonflame, and unfortunately this is just going to be a loss, as Talonflame is going to very comfortably get the Incinerate farm down and exit with a Brave Bird loaded for the Azumarill. That CMP tie ended up being very unfortunate. Shadow Mismagius, it can win a lot of CMP ties, but Morpeko is in a league of its own with regards to attack stat. Picking up a pretty nice lead in the next match. The Drifblim Azumarill matchup is a pretty neutral one across the board, slightly favored towards Azumarill, but the reason why this is so good is this backline gets absolutely melted by Astonishes, so you're very, very happy to catch it here. Tough call to make. Stalemate's going to call the Icy Wind just to get hit with the Shadow Ball. That does huge damage. Now this is only enough for an Icy Wind. Icy Wind not going to be enough to knock out here, but it would pretty much remove any ability for Azumarill to be useful for the rest of the game, so Stalemate does decide to commit the shield. Ice Beam is going to land, aggressive switch to Shadow Mismagius, and he's able to get the Psywave farm down. Mismagius now going to be answered with Typhlosion. Typhlosion, oh my goodness. These Incinerates, massive, massive damage. Dark Pulse is going to be shielded, and in 3 Incinerates, the entire Shadow Mismagius is gone. Oh my goodness. In comes Annihilate. Annihilate now forced to deal with an 80 energy Shadow Typhlosion. Committing the shield, it's going to be the Thunder Punch. However, this is only a Thunder Punch. They need more Incinerates if they want to get to a Blast Burn. That does do a lot of damage though, and I think, unfortunately, this is just going to be too much. Rage Fist will do some okay damage to Gastrodon, but Gastrodon is just going to get the farm down there and be able to body slam the Azumarill. So that Typhlosion, oh my goodness. Those were neutral Incinerates, and 3 Incinerates, the entire Mismagius was gone in a split second. Picking up a great lead in the next match. The entire team is going to beat the opponent's lead here, because not only do you have a Psywave user and an Azumarill, you also have an Annihilate that is specifically built with these IVs to win the mirror and basically guarantee CMP. Opponent safe swapped into a Miltank, And Miltank honestly was a very cool safe swap before Annihilate got its Calm Day, but unfortunately post Calm Day, it's a lot more difficult to use. Now there's a boosted Annihilate, opponent is going to send in Wigglytuff, anticipating the blind Rage Fist, expecting that the opponent would bring in their own Annihilate. So honestly, a pretty good play by the opponent, but realistically, they just don't have a way to win this game now. The Azumarill is much too healthy. Opponent does a nice job of saving the shields for the Annihilate, but even the Annihilate with shields is not a winning endgame for the opponent. Dr. Stalemate doing the right thing, which is going straight for the Ice Beam. A shielded Ice Beam is fine. A no shielded Ice Beam is also fine. In comes Shadow Mismagius. Mismagius forced to shield everything. We've seen how frail this thing is. Can Mismagius get the farm down? Annihilate getting absolutely melted. Annihilate leaves with a parting gift, and that's going to be one final Rage Fist. Switch timers up into the Wigglytuff, and Mismagius will be firing off the Dark Pulse. Dark Pulse is going to be shielded. Mismagius able to hang on and make it to Dark Pulse number 2. This is going to KO the Wigglytuff. Then all that's left is the very low health Annihilate, and that's a Shadow Mismagius endgame sweep to secure the win. Tough lead in the next match, leading into clodsire. And he is going to look to safe switch out of here and send in Annihilate. Annihilate does get the Ice Punch before the Earthquake is reached. Ice Punch lands, and that makes an immediate dent, as now clodsire is below half HP. Clodsire lands the Earthquake, but they have no easy way of farming down here. Annihilate is going to play to a CMP tie that it does win. Ice Punch into the clodsire is going to be no shielded, and just like that, Annihilate wins the zeros. Opponent now sends in Primeape. Primeape is going to be able to boost up its attack with the Rage Fist, and now Primeape will be answered with the Azumarill. Choosing not to send in Mismagius, Psywave of course would hit for super effective damage, but you can't take the Rage Fist like you can on the Azumarill. Azumarill going to throw on alignment here, because if you try and go for good timing, the opponent gets to outpace, so this is Stalemate's way of forcing the first shielding decision of the match onto the opponent. They're going to fire off even more energy. It's going to be the Rage Fist. In comes Shadow Mismagius, but the opponent gets damage registration error, and that allows them, even as the Psywave KOs them, to make one final move. In comes Superior. Superior, they know at this point from how much damage the Vine Whips do that they can just go straight for the Aerial Ace. Mismagius going for the Shadow Ball. No baits here. Will the opponent respect it? The answer is yes. Can Shadow Mismagius get there? No, it can't. I think Aerial Ace is going to KO, and that's going to be game over, but it doesn't. It's the 0-15-15 Shadow Mismagius putting the team on its back. Shadow Ball KO Superior, and wow, I did not see that game ending in a win. Picking up a neutral but negative lead, Azumarill into Galarian Corsola. Galarian Corsola, just due to its combination of incredible attacks and massive stat product, is favored in pretty much every neutral matchup that it encounters. Corsola does play to the CMP tie here. Play Rough is going to land onto the Corsola, and that just really does not do a lot. Nightshade fired off by the Corsola. Azumarill can survive this, but it's going to be very, very low. Azumarill will make it to the Play Rough. Play Rough will not knock out here, but it will get the opponent deep into the red, so they have a choice to make. They decide to let it go. Aggressive switch into the Annihilate, counting on the fact that Annihilate would be good and back, but the opponent has a Wigglytuff. Oh no, that is absolutely tragic. Wigglytuff gets a full charm farm down, and this game is looking very difficult to win. Shadow Mismagius would have to pull off the impossible. Mismagius forced to get debuffed by the Icy Wind. Mismagius exits with energy, but it's lost over half its HP. It's Diggersby in the back. He's going to make a beautiful catch of a Fire Punch, but it's just not going to matter. Mismagius not going to be able to sweep. The opponent still is basically a full health Diggersby, and unfortunately for him, they still have both their shields. They have refused to use their shields throughout the course of the match, and that's honestly going to pay dividends. They're finally forced to use one here, as this Dark Pulse would do a ton of damage. It is going to be on a CMP tie. Shadow Mismagius will commit the shield on the Fire Punch. Opponent farming up. He knows he can't win it, so he's going for the BM Shadow Ball. He's saying, I can't get the 2 Dark Pulses anyway, but at the very least, I made you shield a Shadow Ball. Fire Punch is massive overkill onto Mismagius, and that game will end in a loss. Hopping into the final match, Azumarill into Diggersby. Azumarill back in the driver's seat, as this is such a great lead for both the Annihilate and the Azumarill. That shouldn't have been a CMP tie. The opponent should have been able to outpace by a turn. I don't know if there was one turn of desync there, and that's what caused that to be a CMP tie, but the visuals did look a bit off, and it does register as a CMP tie. This time, choosing to stay in this lead matchup with the Azumarill. Azumarill more than happy to absorb energy. I wouldn't hate a switch out now, especially since a debuff was applied, and there's the switch out. I do really like this play. Opponent with some insane spice. In comes Shadow Flygon. Oh no. Do they know about the Ice Punch? They do. They are going to commit the final shield. They realize that Dragon Tailing down probably not in the cards, so they will go for the Dragon Claw and the Dragon Tail farm down. And now, in comes Azumarill with the Ice Beam loaded. Flygon will immediately get removed from the field of play. And it's going to be 2 shield, Shadow Mismagius versus the world. And it's a Toxapex in the back. And this is the moment we have been waiting for. Shadow Mismagius with every advantage it could ever ask for. In comes the Diggersby with energy loaded. And just like that, the shield scenario goes from the 2-0 to the 0-0 in the blink of an eye. Mismagius overfarming as much as it dares, going for this neutral Dark Pulse. Dark Pulse KOs the Diggersby. In comes Toxapex. These Psywaves absolutely deleting one of the bulkiest Pokemon in the Great League. Shadow Ball from Mismagius picks up the KO, and that is a good game. All in all, these were some extremely entertaining battles, so many thanks to Stalemate for sending it in. Now it goes without saying, Shadow Mismagius is not a Pokemon that you should use if you're looking to gain elo. This is more so just a battler looking to have fun. Stalemate has previously submitted quite a bit to the channel in the past, mainly centered around one of his favorite Pokemon, Shadow Cacturne. And I can see why Mismagius a little bit fit the same bill. A very glassy Pokemon, has a great fast move, and an ability to output some truly massive damage. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.